I had a plan for telling Sarah. I want to tell you about the plan before I tell you what happened instead, because the plan is the part of this story that I keep returning to when I think about what was taken. The plan was specific. It was not a grand gesture and it was not complicated. It was a Saturday morning at Sarah's kitchen table. Coffee that Sarah makes properly, in the specific slow way she has that takes 12 minutes, and that results in something that tastes different from coffee made in any other way. The two of us at the table, the light that comes through Sarah's east-facing kitchen window on a Saturday morning, and me saying, I need to tell you something, and I want to say it here, with you, before anyone else. That was the plan. I had held it for 4 weeks. We had found out at 6 weeks and I had not told anyone, not even my own mother, because I was still in a specific suspended state of a thing being true, but not yet real, and because I was waiting for the plan. The plan required waiting until we had had the 12-week scan, and until the result was what we hoped, and until I could sit across from Sarah in her kitchen and tell her in the specific careful way that Sarah deserved to be told. Sarah is 36 years old. She has been my closest friend for 11 years. She had a miscarriage in April, and a miscarriage in August, and a miscarriage in October. 3 in 1 year. The October one was the 3rd pregnancy she had lost in 2 years. I had been with her for 2 of the 3. I had sat with her in hospital waiting rooms and I had answered the phone at 3 in the morning, and I had been in her kitchen on the morning after the October one making the slow coffee because she could not stand up, and I had not known what to say, and I had said nothing, and I had made the coffee and I had sat with her. I knew what telling Sarah required. I had planned it carefully. The plan was the 12-week scan, and then the Saturday, and then the slow coffee, and then the specific care of 2 people who have been through a thing together, and who tell each other the difficult, beautiful things across a kitchen table. My name is Claire. I am 35 years old. My husband is James, 37. His mother is Vivian. She is 66. She had seen the pregnancy test in our bathroom bin on a Sunday in October. She had told 47 people in the 3 weeks between that Sunday and our 12-week scan, including Sarah. She told Sarah at book club on a Thursday evening in a room with 11 other women, none of whom were me. I want to tell you how we found out about the 47 people. We had not told Vivian. We had not told anyone. We had gone to our 12-week scan on a Thursday morning, the same Thursday evening that Vivian was at book club, and we had come home with the photographs, and I had sat on the sofa, and James had made tea, and we had said, tomorrow we start telling people. Tomorrow I call my mother. Tomorrow we do the plan with Sarah on Saturday. We had gone to bed. Friday morning I woke up to 3 text messages from people I have not yet told, and 1 missed call from my aunt. The text said, "Congratulations." The missed call from my aunt said, when I called back, that she had heard from Vivian at her bridge club the previous evening, and she was absolutely thrilled. I sat on the edge of the bed. I said, "James." He was still half asleep. I said, "Your mother has been telling people." He said, "What?" I said, "My aunt found out from Vivian last night." He said, "We didn't tell her." I said, "I know." He said, "How does she know?" I said, "I don't know yet." I said, "I have 3 congratulations texts from people I haven't told." He sat up. He said, "How many?" I said, 3 texts and a missed call. That was at 7:15 in the morning. By 11 we had received 17 messages of congratulations from people across the range of Vivian's social reach, which includes her bridge club, her book club, the neighbours on both sides of her street, her cousin in Galway, and a woman named Denise, whom I had met once at Vivian's Christmas lunch, and who texted to say, "So thrilled for you both. Vivian told me at Pilates, the cousin in Galway, the bridge club, the book club. I-11 on Friday morning, 17 people had congratulated us on a pregnancy we had not announced. James called his mother. He said, "How do you know about the pregnancy?" She said, "I saw the test in your bathroom bin in October." He said, "October?" She said, "The Sunday you had me over for lunch." She said, "I was washing my hands and I noticed it in the bin." He said, "And you have been telling people since October?" She said, "I was just so excited." She said, "I couldn't keep it to myself." He said, "Mum," he said, "it was not yours to tell." She said, "I know." But he said, "Who have you told?" She said, "Just close family and a few friends." James got the full list from her over the course of 2 calls. By the end of Friday, the number was 47. 47 people had heard about our pregnancy from Vivian before we had told a single person ourselves. My own mother, who I had planned to call that Friday morning, had not yet heard. She heard from me on Friday afternoon, after 47 other people had heard from Vivian. When I called her, she said, "Is everything okay?" She said, "You sound strange." I said, "I am telling you something." I said, "I need to tell you before you hear it somewhere else." She said, "Claire." She said, "What is it?" I said, "I am pregnant. I am 12 weeks. The scan was yesterday." She was very quiet. Then she said, "Oh, my love." She said, "Tell me everything." She said it in the specific way that a mother says it when she has understood that the first telling is now, and that she is going to receive it with all of the attention it deserves. I told her everything. I cried. Not because I was unhappy. Because I had been holding it for 4 weeks, and the holding had ended in the wrong order. And the cry was the release of both things at once. The real thing, which was real and true and good, and the wrong order, which was also real. Both true. Both mine. The call from Sarah. I need to give it to you whole, because it is the center of this account, and everything else is the frame around it. Sarah called at 9:15 on Friday morning, before I had finished counting the congratulations messages. Before the full list of 47. Before James's second call to Vivian. I had picked up the phone and her name was on the screen, and I had understood immediately, with the specific dread of someone who has been dreading exactly this, what she was calling about. She said, "Claire." She said it in the tone she uses when she is being very careful with herself. I said, "Sarah." She said, "I heard from Vivian last night." She said, "At book club." I said, "Sarah." She said, "I want you to know that I am happy for you." She said it very carefully. She said, "I am." She said, "I have needed since last night to say that clearly and to mean it, and now I mean it." She said, "I am happy for you." She said, "And I needed a night to get to that." She said, "I hope you understand what I mean." I said, "I understand completely." I said, "Sarah, I had a plan." She said, "I know." She said, "I know you had a plan." She said, "Vivian doesn't know about October." She said, "I know she doesn't know." She said, "She wasn't cruel." She said it carefully. "She wasn't cruel." She was excited, and she told the book club, and I was in the book club, and I smiled, and I said how wonderful, and I drove home, and I sat in my car in the driveway for 20 minutes. She said, "And then I went inside and I was okay." She said, "I am telling you this not to make you feel responsible." She said, "I am telling you because I want you to know what happened, and I do not want there to be a version of this between us where you don't know." I said, "You sat in the car for 20 minutes. She said, "Yes." I said. She said, "It is fine." I said, "It is not fine." I said, You sat in your car for 20 minutes in the dark on your own driveway because Vivian told a room of 11 women at book club, and you were in the room, and you had to manage it alone, and you had to drive home alone, and you had to sit in your car alone, and none of that was the plan. She said nothing for a moment. Then she said, I know. I said, the plan was a Saturday morning. She said, I know. She said, with the coffee. I said, yes. She said, I know. She said, I want you to know that I would still like the coffee. She said, I would like us to have it anyway. She said, even now, even after. Saturday. She said, Saturday. We hung up. I sat on the sofa for a long time. James came in. He said, was that Sarah? I said, yes. I said, Vivian told book club Thursday night. He said, was Sarah there? I said, yes. He said, does she know about October? I said, Vivian doesn't know about October. I said, Sarah handled it alone and sat in her car for 20 minutes and called me this morning to tell me she was happy for us. He said nothing for a moment. He sat down. He said, I need to speak to my mother today. I said, yes. He said, and it will not be a short conversation. I said, yes. He said, Claire. I said, I know. He said, I know you had a plan for Sarah. I said, I know. He said, I will not be able to give it back to you. I said, I know that. He said, I am going to do what I can do from here. He said, which is a limited thing, but I am going to do it. I said, I know. He went to call his mother. James's conversation with Vivian lasted 40 minutes. I was in the kitchen and the door was closed. I am going to give you his account of it because it is his account to give, and because the 40 minutes produced something I want you to have. He had started with the question he had already asked. How did you know? She had repeated the answer. The bathroom bin. The Sunday in October. He had said, so you looked in our bathroom bin. She had said, I wasn't snooping. She had said, it was visible. He had said, you took information from our bathroom that was not given to you, and you used it to tell 47 people something that was not yours to announce. She had said, I was just excited. He had said, I know. He had said, Mum, I need you to hear something. He had said, one of the people you told was a woman named Sarah. She had said, from Claire's book club. He had said, yes. He had said, Sarah has had 3 miscarriages in the past 2 years. He had said, the most recent one was in October. He had said, the same month you found the test in our bin. She said, oh. He said, Claire had a specific plan for how to tell Sarah. He said, the plan accounted for what Sarah has been through. He said, it accounted for the care that Sarah would need when she received the news, and the specific setting, and the specific privacy, and the specific presence of a friend who knows her well. He said, you told her at book club. He said, in a room of 11 women. He said, Sarah drove home alone and sat in her car for 20 minutes. She said nothing. He said, I know you did not know about Sarah's history. He said, but I need you to understand that the reason we had not told anyone yet was not impatience or superstition. He said, it was care. He said, we were waiting until we could tell people carefully. He said, you took that away from us by looking in a bin on a Sunday in October and deciding that what you found there was yours to use. He said, the excitement was real. He said, I am not saying the love behind it was not real. He said, but the action was wrong, and its consequences were real and specific, and I need you to sit with the specifics. She said, I didn't know about Sarah. He said, yes. He said, And that is the point. He said, you did not know. He said, you had partial information that you found in a bin that was not yours to search, and you acted on it without knowing the full picture. He said, the full picture is that one of the first people to learn about this pregnancy learned about it alone, at night, from someone who didn't know what she was carrying, and had to sit in a car to manage it. He said, that is what the excitement produced. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I would like to call Sarah. He said, why? She said, to apologize. He said, I want to think about whether that is helpful, or whether it puts Sarah in the position of managing your feelings about this. He said, I will talk to Claire. He said, if Claire thinks it would help Sarah, I will let you know. He said, the other thing I am asking you to do is to call everyone you told and tell them that the announcement was not yours to make and that you acted without permission. She said, all of them. He said, yes. She said, that is 47 people. He said, yes. She said, James. He said, Mum. He said, I am asking you to do something uncomfortable in proportion to something uncomfortable that you did. He said, that is not unreasonable. He said, you do not have to do it. He said, but if you do not, I need you to understand that it changes what I am able to offer you going forward in terms of access to this pregnancy and to this child. He said it clearly and without heat. She said, you would keep me from my grandchild. He said, I would not keep you from anything. He said, I am describing a consequence. He said, the consequence of not repairing a harm you have done is that the trust between us is smaller. He said, smaller trust means less access. He said, not zero. He said, less. He said, I need you to make the calls. She said, all right. He hung up. He came into the kitchen. He said, she is going to make the calls. I said, all of them. He said, yes. I said, including Sarah. He said, including Sarah, if you want that. I said, let me call Sarah first. I said, let me ask her what she wants. He said, yes, that is the right order. I want to tell you about the plan in more detail, because the plan was something I had been building since we saw the line on the test on the evening in October, the Wednesday before the Sunday Vivian visited, and the building of it was a significant part of the 4 weeks, and I want to give you the full shape of what the building involved. I had thought about Sarah's face, specifically, the particular expression she has when she receives difficult, beautiful things. A slight inward pulling, like a person steadying themselves in a good wind, and then the opening out. I had seen it when her mother recovered from her cancer. I had seen it when she got the job she had applied for 3 times. I had seen it at my wedding when I walked down the aisle, and she was in the front row, and she had that face for 30 seconds before the smile that replaced it. I knew what the news would ask of her. I knew the specific weight of it. Her friend, her equal in age and life stage, carrying the thing that had been so costly for her. I knew that if I handed it to her badly, it would not damage what we are, but it would add a layer to the difficulty that Sarah did not need, and that I had the ability, with care, to avoid. So I had thought about the face and the coffee and the morning, and the table, and I had built the plan around all of those elements. The plan had accounted for everything. It had not accounted for Vivian looking in our bin. Let me tell you something about the bin. I had not thrown the test away immediately. I had put it in the bathroom bin, because that is where people put things. I had done it without thinking. I had not thought, Vivian will visit on Sunday, and she will use our bathroom and she will see this. I had not thought any of that. I had put it in the bin the way a person puts a thing in a bin. The Sunday she visited, she had used the bathroom twice. The second time she was in there for 9 minutes. I know this because I was clock watching while she was in there in the specific way. I have been clock watching in Vivian's presence since the 3rd year of our relationship, when I understood that her attention to the details of our domestic life had a quality that required monitoring. 9 minutes in our bathroom. She had come out and said nothing. She had finished her tea. She had kissed James on the cheek, and she had hugged me. Briefly, in the slightly too long way she hugs me that has always communicated a warmth that is also an assessment. She had gone home. I had not known what she had seen for 3 weeks. I also want to tell you about the 47 as a number. James had asked Vivian for the full list, and she had given it to him, all 47 names, written down on a piece of paper, because he had asked her to write them down so that he had the full count. He brought the list home. I have it. I do not read it regularly, but I have it. 47 names. Each of them a person who received news that was hours before we had given it. 47 early recipients of a thing that should have moved through one channel first. Ours. I look at the list occasionally. Not with anger. With something that is more like a record-keeping instinct. This is the thing that happened. These are the 47 people. The list exists. The record is complete. I am a person who keeps records. James knows this. Vivian is learning it. Sarah said yes. She said, yes, I would like her to call. She said, not to forgive her. She said, she doesn't need my forgiveness for anything. She said, but I would like her to know that she handed me something without knowing what she was handing me. And I would like her to have that information. She said, it matters to me that she has it. I told James. James told Vivian. Vivian called Sarah on a Tuesday evening. Sarah told me about the call on the Wednesday. She said, she called at 7. She said, I'm calling because James asked me to. She said, and then she said something else. Sarah said, she said, I want you to know that I knew about your losses. She said, Claire had told me once several months ago. She said, and I still told a room of people you were in, on a Thursday evening, without thinking about what I was handing you. She said, I am sorry. Sarah said, I sat with that. She said, she knew. She said, Vivian knew about October, and she still told the book club, and I was in the book club. I said, yes. Sarah said, and she called to tell me she knew. She said, she didn't have to do that. She said, she could have just said I'm sorry. I should have waited, without admitting she knew about you. She said, she told me she knew. I said, yes. Sarah was quiet for a moment. She said, I don't know what to do with that yet. She said, it doesn't undo the car. It doesn't undo the 20 minutes. She said, but she knew, and she told me she knew. I said, I know. She said, please tell Claire I love her. I said, I love you too. She said, I know. She said, Saturday still stands. I said, Saturday still stands. I want to tell you about the 47 calls. Not all of them. I want to tell you about one more. Vivian called her cousin in Galway. The cousin called James after the call to say, your mother called me. She said, I wanted to let you know she called. She said that she had told me something that wasn't hers to tell, and that she wanted to acknowledge it. She said, and then she cried. The cousin said, I want you to know she cried. She said, I don't think she understood until she was making the calls, how many people she had told. She said, I think she was counting them for the first time. James told me this. He said, 47 calls. He said, each one a count. She had not counted when she was telling. She had counted when she was calling back to account for it. That is a thing I hold without knowing what to do with it. The love was real. The excitement was real. The not counting was real. The counting when it was required was also real. I am holding it all in the same account. I have been doing that a lot this year. The baby shower. I want to tell you how we did it and what it was. The shower was in April. I was 28 weeks. James and I had planned it ourselves, because I had understood, after the Friday of the 47 congratulations, that the planning of it needed to be ours. Not as a punitive decision, not to exclude Vivian, because the first telling had been taken, and I needed the shower to be the thing that was ours from beginning to end. The venue was our house. The food was food I had chosen. The guest list was 22 people, chosen by me and James together, with one criteria applied. Anyone who was invited had heard about the pregnancy from us, not from Vivian's network. 22 people who had received the news in the right direction. Sarah was on the list. Sarah's name was the first on the list. I called her the week after the calls were done and I said, "I want you to come to the shower." She said yes. I said, "I want you to come early." She said, "How early?" I said, 9. "Everyone else is coming at 10. She said, "What happens at 9? I said, "The slow coffee." She was quiet. Then she said, "I will be there at 9. She was there at 9. She arrived with a bunch of flowers that she had cut from her garden that morning, the specific garden she has been building for 4 years. And she came in the back door the way she always comes in, and she put the flowers on the counter, and I made the coffee. Not the 12-minute way, but close. And we sat at my kitchen table in the April morning light before anyone else arrived. She said, "This is the plan." I said, "The late version." She said, "It counts." I said, "I know it counts." I said, "I wanted you to have it anyway." She said, "Thank you." She said, "The baby is going to have wonderful friends." I said, "She is." We sat. She said, "She." I said, "Yes." We had found out the week before. She said, "She." She said, "I want to say her name." I said, "Her name is going to be Mara." She was quiet. Then she said, "Mara." She said it the way you say a name when you are trying it in your mouth for the first time and finding it fits. She said, "That is a good name." I said, "I thought so." She said, "You thought so?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Yours?" I said, "Yes." We drank the coffee. The morning light was the April light, which is a specific quality, thin and new, not yet the full warmth of the year but moving toward it. The flowers were on the counter. The guests arrived at 10. Vivian was not on the list. I want to be clear about that. She was not excluded from Mara's life. She was not invited to the shower. The shower was the thing I had planned from the beginning, and the thing the bin in October had taken from me, and the thing that could only be rebuilt by building it exactly as I had always wanted it. Vivian had not been in the plan. She was not in the shower. She met Mara the week after the birth. She came to the house as we had arranged. She held her for the time we gave her. She said, "She is perfect." She was right about that. She is perfect. The coffee at 9 and the flowers and Mara and the April light. That is the record. That is what is mine. Where things are now. Mara is 4 months old. She smells like the specific thing that 4-month-old babies smell like, which is a thing I cannot describe but which I am going to try. Warm, and new and specific to her, and unlike anything I have smelled before. I say this because it is the record of what is real and what is mine, and because the bin in October and the 47 people and the book club Thursday and Sarah's 20 minutes in the car are all real, but they are not the thing I reach for when I think about this year. The thing I reach for is the April light and the flowers, and Sarah saying, "Mara, let me tell you about Vivian and the present." She comes once a month. The visits are 2 hours. She holds Mara. Mara has reached the age where she looks at new faces with the specific focused attention of a baby who is taking inventory. The slight serious assessment that ends in either the beginning of a smile or a renewed interest in the ceiling. When Vivian held her last month, Mara assessed her. The assessment took 30 seconds. Then Mara looked at the ceiling for a while. Then she looked back at Vivian. Vivian said, "Hello." Mara looked at her very seriously. Then she made the sound she makes that is not yet a word, but is the direction of a word. A vowel extended into something that has shape and intention without content. Vivian said, "I heard you." She said, "I hear you." I was across the room. I heard Vivian say, "I hear you" to a 4-month-old who had said nothing. And I sat with that. "I hear you." As though she knew that hearing was the thing that had been insufficient. The thing that the 47 calls had been about, in the end. The thing that the conversation about Sarah had been about. Hearing before acting. Receiving before sharing. "I hear you." She said it to a 4-month-old, and I was across the room, and I do not know what she meant. I know what I heard. I am holding it. Here is my question for you. If your Mel found out about your pregnancy by searching your bathroom bin and told 47 people before you could tell a single person yourself, and one of those people was your closest friend who had just lost her 3rd pregnancy, what would you have said to your Mile? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. One more thing. Sarah is pregnant. She told me on a Thursday morning, just the two of us at her kitchen table. The slow coffee. The morning light. Her face when she said it, the specific quality of it. The held thing and the real thing together. She said, "I am telling you first." She said, "I am telling you before anyone else." She said, "You are the first person to know." I said, "Tell me everything." She said, "I will." The coffee was perfect. It took 12 minutes.